going to talk in this second part of your first module. We'll be talking about what is the CSS. What are the CSS syntax we have to use? The location of styles, the selectors, the cascade, how styles interact, the box model, and the CSS text style. So these 7 steps we are going to learn in this second part of your CSS. Okay. Now, what is CSS? So you all know very well what is full form of CSS. So this is nothing, it's a cascaded style sheet. That means you are going to make your sheet, that means your web page, with the styles. What style you are going to use, we are going to learn that one. Okay. So when we talk about the CSS, right? So CSS is a W3C. So every time, whenever we are going to use W3C, clearly understood that it is the World Wide Web. W3 means World Wide Web Consortium. So World Wide Web Consortium stands for describing the presentation of HTML elements. As you said that, right, we want to do the some designing. So what is the design? Design is nothing, it's presentation. It's nothing, it's the appearance. How you want to present your HTML page, how the HTML page appearance should be there, that is going to be defined by CSS. With CSS, we can assign. What are the things we can assign? We can assign the font properties. You can assign the colors. You can assign the size of the font. You can assign the borders. Okay, you can assign the background images, even the position of elements. So that means you want any text to be how much margin you want. You want margin to the left, right, top, bottom. So where the position you want, position also can be defined, and there are so many other things also you can define in CSS. So these are the properties you can assign with CSS. Okay. So CSS is what? It's a language, right? That it has own syntax rule, right? Because it's not following the HTML rule, it's following its own rule. Cascaded style sheet will be having its own rule. It will be created by their own. Then CSS, as I said, right, you have to use either internally or externally, right? So CSS can be added directly to HTML element, either via the style attribute, that is the within the head element, which already we have discussed while learning in HTML. So you can use, that means you can link your CSS within the head tag, right? And most commonly, the separate text file that will be contained with the CSS. So what we are going to use in the head title, that is head tag, for the linking the CSS, that is nothing, your external separate text file which is containing only CSS, you are going to use that one. And CSS, as I said, right, stand for cascading style sheets. CSS will describe how HTML elements are to be displayed on the screen, paper, or in other media. Definitely, as I mentioned in the starting only, the CSS is like you are going to do the presentation. Yeah, how the appearance of your HTML page will be there, that you are going to define, right? So that's what it is mentioned here, that you can display on the screen or the paper or the media, so however you want. CSS saves a lot of work. Already I have told you that, because the same CSS you can use in multiple web pages wherever you need as a external style sheets, right? So you are going to create a CSS files wherever you need, you can use easily. Otherwise, what will happen in HTML? Every web page you all going to use separate CSS on each web pages. So it will take your more time, the page load will get increased, the number of lines of code will get increased, right? So these are the disadvantages of using a CSS on the same web page. So instead of that, we are going to use separate CSS file. So it will save our time, okay, our work also, and we can build as many web pages we need with the same CSS also. The benefits of CSS. What are the benefits? Why you are using CSS? So as we mentioned, right? So we use the CSS is better way of describing your presentation than HTML. So whatever we were making HTML, we want to describe our presentation in better way, right? So the degree of formatting control in CSS is significantly better than provided in HTML. Obviously, as I mentioned, right? In HTML, your every line, wherever you need paragraph, bold, color, you are going to write each paragraph. Suppose in a web page, you have total 10 lines, right? So suppose you have this paragraph, okay? Next, you have another paragraph, okay? And this paragraph I need bold, okay? This paragraph also I need bold, okay? So every time you are going to write this bold for this paragraph also, this paragraph also. So as many pages you have, number of paragraph tag you have, and as many times you need bold, every time you are going to write. You have to align, then also for the alignment also. If you want the font face color, then every time you are going to assign that, right? So what will happen here with the CSS, the formatting control, right? It will better because once in paragraph, if you define like paragraph, okay? In paragraph, you are going to define that the CSS, it will be the bold, right? So I'll define paragraph as a bold. Okay, so what will happen? This wherever you use the paragraph, it will be bold only. So like this way, we can. This is one of the benefits of your CSS. Any question, guys? Okay, so next point. The website becomes significantly more maintainable because all formatting can be centralized into one or a small handful of CSS files. What is the meaning of this line? The meaning of this line is very simple. Your website you can easily maintain. That means whenever you want to change any style, you have a centralized file, right? That means you have one CSS file. You will take that CSS file and you will modify that. The moment you modify the CSS page, wherever you have used the particular tag, it will get changed. Otherwise, what will happen? Every time you have to open the every pages and then you are going to modify that. So it will save your time and now it is easy to maintain because you have one CSS file. The moment you change, it will change on all the pages. Now it is called as also CSS driven sites are more accessible. So based on CSS website are more accessible. That means it will be accessible fast. It will be load faster on your page because you are not adding more lines of code on the HTML page. So that's why it is accessible. Next, the site built using centralized set of CSS files for all presentation will also be quicker to download because each individual HTML file will contain less markup. Same thing, right? So whenever you are opening any web page, you have seen that, right? It takes some time to load. If you use different in the same page, the CSS, what happens? It will take time to download that page on your browser, right? So that's why it takes more time. So instead of that, what we are doing, we are using one CSS set of CSS. The moment you call the C in the browser, every browser having the cache facility. So the browser will cache the CSS and it will be there. The moment you upload next, opening next page, it will be load faster. So these are the benefit of your CSS. And next, the CSS can be used to adopt a page for different output mediums. Obviously you can use, because even if you want for different page, you can use it. Okay, so like that way we can use the CSS. The next about the CSS versions. Okay, so there are a free programming language. There will be some different version, that means update it, right? So similar way, the CSS is also having several versions. So what are that? So in starting in 1996, right, the World Wide Web Consortium published the CSS level 1. So the recommendation was it was CSS level 1 in 1996. Then a year later, the CSS level 2 was recommended, and also it was simply called as CSS 2. So first it was called as generally CSS, next it was published as CSS 2. And even though when the work began over the decade ago, if you see the last some 10-20 years, so what happened? The recommended version came with the level CSS 2.1 and did not become the official till June 2011, right? Then, and the complete mattered even more. So again, the CSS 2.1 standard, the moment it started people working, then again different group at World Wide Web Consortium started working on the CSS 3, and they gave the draft of CSS 3. And till now we are using CSS 3. Mostly in most of the websites, CSS 3 will be there and HTML5 will be there because of responsiveness. Okay, so the browser adoption. So from when the browser started adopting this CSS version, right? So most of you have seen that Microsoft Internet Explorer. Guys, can you tell me that what is the Microsoft Internet Explorer version you have on your PC?